Joining me now is Ken Engquist. He's the CEO of Intrepid Metals. Good to see you again.
Yeah, you too. Nice to see you, Mark.
Lots to talk about since we last discussed things. You've got these three projects in Arizona, and since then you've got Rio Tinto and Ivanhoe. They've bought claims on either side of Corral, one of your projects. You've also said that Forest Strategics have signed confidentiality agreements, and they've been in the data room of the company. So what is this signaling to us?
Yeah, it's a bit of an update from that. We've got more than a half a dozen CAs signed. We've got a lot of competition around Corral. It's our flagship project. We have also the Tombstone project to the south, which is very analogous to the Taylor Deeps deposit. Quite frankly, that could have been our flagship project as well. It just requires some deep drilling and an initial financing that we did last January of $6.6 million. We thought our money would go a lot further in drilling 300-meter holes at Corral, and so that's what we've done. But we will have about $1 million work obligation or exploration expenditure obligation at Tombstone South, and we'll be drilling a couple of deep holes into that anomaly that makes it so analogous to Taylor Deeps. But we did that initial drill program at Corral, and that was the right decision. You saw in July of last year, we put out the press release with the results from that drill program, which were showing 100, 200 meters of 0.7 to 1.5% copper, some really good intervals at surface. We're not in any national forest, so we're not encumbered in that way at all. That risk is out the window, and we started generating a lot of interest from that, a lot of phone calls, a lot of attention, and so. In the fall of last year, we were made aware that, Rio Tinto and Ivanhoe had been staking the ground around us to the east and to the west of us. In order to have done that and for us to have found out about that time, the timing would have been that when those press release came out for those drill results, they must have started staking about that time. And then we press released that in January. Our share price jumped about 27% that day. So that was exciting, and it was the right decision to do because it was definitely beneficial to our shareholders. And as such, we have in early December we made the decision to start letting people into the data room. We formed a committee on the board called the Strategic Financing Committee to make the decisions and to discuss who and how we were going to go forward from strategic financing perspectives, and who we were going to let in the data room. And so we haven't let everybody in. We've been selective, and now we are in active discussions with strategics, and term sheets are being passed around.
So, i.e., we could see a transaction at some point for Corral.
Yeah, strategic financing.
Just a financing, not a full takeover.
No.
And so could there be multiple companies involved?
Potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. We are on that. At that point, myself and our chairman Mark Morabito went to Europe a couple weeks after that press release came out, and did a high-focused marketing trip with high net worth individuals and capital investors, and started putting together a soft book on that, and we've got a lot of interest.
Okay, so setting that aside for now, at Corral you want to do phase 2 drilling. You've identified some new targets. Has that started yet, or that's coming?
We've got the drill program scoped out. We have to do the financing first.
Okay.
So we've scoped out as much as 17,000 meters and plus. It's evolving. We have somewhere in the neighborhood of 53 to 54 holes. About 75% of that program is planned for exploration in terms of infill and step-out drilling, and then about 25% of that is our new targets. So we've identified somewhere between 15 and 20 new targets, and I'd say about a quarter of those targets are focused on the porphyry sources. And I say sources because we're not sure if we have just one or if we have multiple porphyry sources on the site, because it's recent analysis and through the mapping and that we've been doing in soil sampling is kind of indicating that's a possibility that we have a couple porphyries.
How much do you need to raise for the drilling, roughly?
I put it around 3.5 million per 5,000 meters. So we're looking at around 12 million, 10 to 12 million to do 15,000 meters. That would easily get us to, or not easily, I should say, that would get us to a point where we would be able to put together a resource by this time next year. That's not saying that we would. We would like to put together a resource that's fit for this asset. We don't want to come out too soon with the small resource just for the sake of putting together a resource so that we get a lot of interest. We've already got the competition on site at Corral with the strategics that we're already in active discussions with. So,
you mentioned $1 million allocated to Tombstone. You've also talked about possibly drilling concurrently Corral and Tombstone South. Is that the plan? You're going to do that?
Yeah, we would, because at Tombstone, those are deep holes. They're 1,000-meter holes. They're going to be $500,000 a piece. We want to go in there with the right drillers to make sure we're not going to get to 700 meters and then have to pull out. And we want to make sure those holes are successful. So we'll pick some really good, high-quality drillers that have the reputation for drilling deep. And we've got an excellent drilling company that we've worked with in the first drill program. We've already talked to them. They're ready to go. They have the availability. We don't need permits at Corral. And so as soon as we get the financing closed, we will mobilize them within weeks because, like I said, we're on private lands there. No permits required. And they'll start drilling right away.
All right, lastly, Ken, sum it up for us here. You've obviously got a lot of interest from these strategics. Investors are paying attention. You've got copper deficits coming, supposedly, the ongoing energy transition. So give us the overall pitch for the company, for Intrepid.
We're in a great jurisdiction. Arizona supplies like nearly 70% of the U.S.'s copper demand. With Trump in the office, with the tariffs, with the demand coming from China, with the supply cliff coming, I just saw a presentation in the main ballroom by the end of this year. It's the perfect storm. We are seeing a lot of interest, I believe, from the majors right now because I think that's what they're doing is focusing on the lowest risk jurisdictions and obviously they're going to be going for single asset producers first, and then they'll start, when they gobble all them up, then they'll start looking at these opportunities. But they need to start looking 5-10 years down the road on what their production pounds are going to be on their books. And so that's why we're getting a lot of attention right now because we haven't found the porphyry source yet. We do have a sizable CRD deposit that's going to be built out, and we have lots of drill programs, drilling planned for it. And it's in an ideal jurisdiction that's not encumbered by any kind of national forests or any other issues.
All right, thanks for the update. Great stuff.
Yeah, thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Ken. Ken Engquist, the CEO of Intrepid Metals.